Good afternoon, students. This video is to provide a review of the process we are using for division in 5th grade. We're using a process called division using partial quotients. And this process is a little different than the way that I learned how to divide when I was your age, and also probably different than how your parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, all of those people probably learned to divide the same way that I did. And I actually like this method better, so I wanted to share it so that they also can sit down with you and see it and maybe hopefully understand a bit of why the division we're doing right now looks a little bit different than how they may be familiar with doing division. So let's get started. We want to be able to divide a 3-digit number by a 2-digit number. In order to do that, remember the first step we want to take is to list some multiples of our number we're dividing by. So if I have 364 of something and I want to divide it into groups of 25, I'm going to think of what are some multiples of 25, and we'll write those out here. So I hope that you're beginning to be familiar with multiples that involve 10, because we can always just add a 0 to the number to come up with that multiple. That's an easy one to do in our head. 25 times 10 is 250. I could say 25 times 100 would be 2,500, because I would just put the 2 zeros after the 25. So the longest part of this right now is me trying to write here. So I apologize for that delay. All right, and then we can also think of what other multiples of 25 are we familiar with. And so some of us are very familiar with counting by 25s when we're counting money, things like that. So we might say, well, I know that 25 times 2 is 50. That's a multiple we could use here. All right. And if I count by 25s 4 times, I get 25, 50, 75, 100. So we might remember that one as well. But it's also okay to stop here and say, you know what, these are the ones I can think of right now. So these will work for us. Every time we are listing multiples, we can also keep in mind that 1 is a multiple of every number. So 25 times 1 would be 25. So let's go ahead and set up our problem over here. We're going to rewrite this problem so that we have 364 written inside the division sign and 25 written out here. And we're going to start by saying, how many groups of 25 can I make out of 364? Well, let me just use a multiple that I know. I know that I can make at least 10 groups. So I'm going to write my 10 over here, because when I listed my multiples, I see that 25 times 10 is 250, and I have more than 250. So I'm going to make 10 groups of 25, and that will use 250 of the number that I started with. So I'm going to subtract that 250 to see what I have left. 4 minus 0 is 4, 6 minus 5 is 1, and 3 minus 2 is 1. So I have 114 left. Well, looking at just the multiples I have listed here, I see that I can make 2 groups of 25. So I'm going to make 2 groups of 25 that will use 50 of what I have left. So I'm going to subtract that 50, and that will leave me with 64. If I have 64 left, I know that I can make 2 more groups of 25, because I needed 50 to do that. So I'm going to make 2 more groups of 25 and subtract that 50 for those 2 groups. And when I subtract that, now I have 14 left. And when my number that I have left is smaller than my number I'm dividing by, I know I've reached my remainder. So at this point, I'm going to go over here where I listed how many groups I'm making, and I'm going to add those up. I made 10 groups, and then I made 2 more groups, and then 2 more groups. So 10 plus 2 plus 2 is 14. I made 14 groups of 25, and I also have a remainder of 14. My remainder means there were after I made my groups, there were 14 left that I cannot make another group of 25 out of. So 14 groups of 25, but I also have 14 left over. So what we're going to do now is give you a couple of problems to try on your own. Go ahead and try to divide 283 divided by 25 using the process starting first with listing some multiples of 25 and then writing the division problem on a piece of paper. After you try that one, try 136 divided by 40. Same process, write the multiples of 40 and then figure out how many groups of 40 you can make out of 136. So go ahead and pause the video while you work on those two problems. After you've solved them, then unpause the video to see if your solutions are correct. Okay, students, so I'm curious to see how well you did with this division. Let's go ahead and solve these together. Please make sure you're looking at your work to see at each step if that is how you solved it. So we're going to write 283 divided by 25. My multiples of 25 that I'm going to use, as you keep doing the multiples, you'll get better and better at thinking of multiples of numbers, but it's not really necessary to have a great big long list. We can say 25 times 10 is 250. That one looks like it's going to work really well for us here because my number is 283. So I'm probably going to start with that, and I don't need to make a great big long list. Let's make 10 groups of 25. That will be 250 that I'll be using out of my 283. So I'm going to subtract the 250 and see how many are left after I use 250 to make my 10 groups. I have 33 left. 3 minus 0 is 3. 8 minus 5 is 3. So if I have 33 left, can I make any more groups of 25? Yes, I can make one more group of 25. So I'm going to record that over here that I'm making one more group of 25. I'm going to subtract that 25 and see what I get. Let's see, 3 minus 5 I can't do. I need to regroup. So I'm going to borrow a 10. I'm going to make this 13 minus 5. That will be 8. 2 minus 2 is 0. So when I add up how many groups of 25 did I make, 10 plus 1, that gives me 11 groups of 25 with a remainder of 8. Did you get that same answer? All right. So look carefully to see if you did get it correct. Congratulations. That is amazing. And if you didn't, go ahead and try to see where you might have made a mistake. Did you start with 10 groups of 25? You might have started with a different number. That's okay. Each time you make groups of 25, record how many groups you made and subtract how many out of the total that is. Parents, the reason this method is so much nicer for students to learn division with is that even if they start with a different number, so say for instance they started with 2 groups of 25 and they just subtract 50, they would still end up, as long as they're recording each time they make groups of 25 over here and they're subtracting, they're still going to come up with the same answer. It's just going to take more steps if they use those smaller multiples. All right, my next problem is 136 times 40. So I'm running a little short on space here. So I'm going to write the problem down here and I'm going to record my multiples up above the problem just to give myself a little more room. So my multiples of 40. Again, I don't need to go too big here because my number is only 136. But I could say 40 times 10, I know, is 400. That's too much. I only have 136, so I know I'm dealing with pretty small numbers here because 400, I'm not going to be able to make 10 groups of 40 because I don't have 400. I have much less than that. So I might want to go smaller and say, well, how much would 2 groups of 40 be? 40 times 2 would be 80 because I know that 2 times 4 is 8. And so 2 times 40 would be 80. And I also know I have my 1 that I can use. So I'm going to start here. I'll say, well, 80 is not too far off from 136, so I'm going to make 2 groups of 40. When I make my 2 groups of 40, that is 80, so I will subtract 80 from the number I started with. 6 minus 0 is 6. 13 minus 8. So I have 3 minus 8, but I know I can't do that. So I'm going to just move this over here and call this 13 minus 8 is 5. So after I make my two groups of 40 and subtract them, I have 56 left from what I started with. If I have 56 left, can I make another group of 40? Yes, I can. So I'm going to write down one more group of 40 and subtract. I know I can't make two groups because I don't have enough to make 80. So I'm just going to take away one group. 6 minus 0 is 6. And 5 minus 4 is 1. So I add up how many groups of 40 did I make? Well, I started with two groups of 40, and then I took away another group of 40. So that's 3 groups of 40. And I have a remainder of 16. And that is the correct solution to the problem. Congratulations if you got that correct. And remember, if you didn't get that correct, keep practicing. An important part of this is getting used to making these multiples. These are actually pretty simple problems compared to some of the ones we've been doing in class, but these are about the difficulty of the ones that you'll see on your test for Unit 2. However, as we go through the year, we will continue to progress to more difficult problems, and we'll continue practicing them together, and I'll continue to put some new, harder ones on our videos. So I hope you are feeling confident about this and that you can practice a few more, and we will look forward to seeing how you do on your Unit 2 test and continuing this throughout 5th grade. Have a great rest of your day.